Hello and welcome back to the Movie Pope podcast. And today we are going to be doing something that we've never done before. We are going to be doing a trailer reaction with a guest, Simon Rubinstein. How are you, sir?
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for having me.
Oh man, I'm really excited about this because not only are we doing the trailer reaction, but we are going to be doing an announcement. So let's go ahead and get the announcement part first, just because it's one of those things where the sooner we get it out there, the sooner we can disperse into the ether and we all feel good. So when we started the Movie Pope podcast last year, it came out of nowhere. It was something that Lee and I have been wanting to do for a long time, and we had a few starts and a few misses, but so far it's been running consistently. And then a few months ago, I introduced another series that came without warning, Thespians. Now we're into our, I think, 5th or 6th episode. So rather than just keep introducing these things without any warning, I'm going to give everybody here the courtesy of knowing that we're doing a 3rd series called Myth, Magic, and Movies. And I'm really excited about it because with this is going to be one of those series where it's going to require a lot of research and a lot of movie watching on our part, but we plan on doing right. And what this series is about is we're going to be looking at movies and TV shows through a Gothic lens. So we're going to look at the horror aspect, the true crime, the mythological, the fantasy. And Simon here is going to be coming on as a regular contributor to the series. So Simon, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're looking forward to here?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to exploring the genre. There's so many great films to look at, and there's so many on the horizon. So we're definitely going to be here for it all.
Well, another thing too, because we had a phone call probably a few weeks ago, and you were telling me that you studied Irish folklore or something.
Yeah, the early modern period of Irish history, specifically 1534 to 1799. So there's a lot. It's a really interesting period of time, and beforehand and afterwards and during, there's a lot of lore and tales, and there's just so much beautiful literature that came out of the time. So we're really excited for the whole series.
And well, that's another thing too, is because as we've been developing the topics for the series, and as we've been talking to a lot of people, I begin to realize there's just so much to grasp at. So so what I'm thinking of what we do is each month we'll air an episode that caters to a different genre. So our first episode that we're gonna record is in September, and that's gonna air on Halloween week, called What is Horror? And we'll be discussing the horror genre, what qualifies as horror, and why which movies would we watch on Halloween night. And that's going to scratch the itch of anybody who's a huge horror fan. But then after that, we're also going to be doing an episode called "What Is a Ghost," where we take a look at the depiction of ghosts in modern filmmaking and TV. I'm particularly interested in the the whole ghost hunting aspect of it. Is there anything in particular that you find fascinating about ghosts that you want to speak of, or you want to save that for later?
Yeah, I know a lot of people who have seen ghosts, and for me, it's always like, what can I believe? But in terms of film and television, there's been a lot. So there's a lot to unpack there, both the real and the entertaining.
Well, not to mention too, the ghost hunting phenomenon has kind of exploded over the past 10 to 20 years. You can't watch any TV, you can't watch any channel now without seeing a ghost hunting promo on there. So after that, in November, we're going to record an episode on criminal profiling, and that is going to be our first foray into true crime. Now, Simon, let me run this by you here. I was thinking about doing an episode sometime next year where we actually do I guess you could say sort of like a pretend production meeting where we take like a true crime story and we do like a fantasy, figuring out what story are we going to adapt, how are we going to adapt it, what is the script going to be like, and my favorite, who are we going to cast in these roles. Now, I have a few in mind. I have been watching a lot of true crime podcasts lately, so that's kind of contributed to that. And then December, I want to do an episode focusing on mythology. Because I feel like that's like one of those, like I think out of all of the genres, I think that's one of those genres that really doesn't get that much love and respect. So I would love to do an episode, because I'm leaning towards Greek mythology, but I remember talking to a guest recently who's familiar with the Arthurian legends. So I'm kind of split right now. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But I would love to. I would like to think that for the next few months, we're touching horror, true crime, fantasy, and in mythology on that.
And the stories that inform them.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say the biggest thing for me, what I would like to do, either at the end of this year or early next year, is look at the DC and Marvel universes, because those are modern mythologies right there, man. Like,
Definitely.
I mean, like, because if you think about it, during the classical period, every household had like those little statues that they would put in like a corner, kind of like representing, like, you have like a god of each household. I don't know about you, but I have tons of figurines and tons of Lego figures of, like, superheroes. So I've got like Batman Funko Pops, I've got Hulk Lego figurines, I've got Iron Man, I've got the Avengers, like, scattered all over my place. So I think that would be a really, really great in-depth conversation, and I'm trying to get this one particular writer to come on to talk about that. So fingers crossed he responds soon. His book is supposed to drop in the next few months too. So I'm thinking that maybe the reason why he hasn't responded yet is because his book hasn't dropped. But we'll just have to wait and see. Any other thoughts before we dive into our trailer reaction?
Let's dive in.
All right, let me get started here. Now I gotta say, like, when it came to the 2019 Hellboy, I didn't mind it at all. I kind of liked it. I kind of liked it for what it was, just because of the fact that not only did you have David Harbour on there, but it was exploring territory that we hadn't seen in the first two Hellboy movies, or even the animated Hellboy movies, for that matter.
It was cool.
I kind of like the Baba Yaga storyline, but they really didn't go too much into it. I kind of wish they would do a Lobster Johnson movie, to be honest with you, because I fucking love Lobster Johnson, and the fact he had an appearance very briefly, I was like, okay, that works
very well. Yeah.
All right, let me go ahead and get started here.
There's something going on here.
Spooky.
I need to understand it. Like you do.
That's exactly why you shouldn't be here.
Oh.
You might say a demonic entity falls under our expertise.
Ew.
Oh. Ketchup.
Crooked man's waiting on you.
That's interesting. Oh, you didn't want me to squash?
No, squashing's good.
I heard tales about him all my life. Most just called him the Crooked Man.
I thought Big Red wasn't scared of anything.
Oh, I know something you're afraid of.
You hear something?
Your road ends in the dark like mine.
Let's just keep on coming.
It ain't even really begun.
Oh.
Come on, Snake, let's rattle.
Let not your horns be troubled. By way they know not. I will make the darkness light. And the crooked things straight.
Crooked Man. Yeah, we only saw like one shot of him.
Power of prayer, son?
just in case.
I'd watch it definitely. What are your initial thoughts?
So I'll say this about this trailer. It's going back to the roots. Like what we loved about the first Hellboy movie, where it was dark and spooky and scary. It you're getting that in this trailer and a lot more, right? It's a lot more. It's a lot more intense, and it's also pretty isolated too, because it's got that cabin in the woods vibe about it, right?
Yeah.
But but at the same time, it's a Hellboy movie, so there's going to be Big Red running in and saving everybody. What I also like about it is that they're not trying to adapt too many different storylines like the 2019 movie, right? Because remember the 2019 movie, they were like adding elements of like the Wild Hunt and other things into it, and it kind of became this huge like mess of trying to figure out what story to follow. Here, it's pretty pretty straightforward. You can just follow Hellboy as he's in Appalachia in the 50s investigating this crooked man. My only concern is that the actor who's playing Hellboy, he doesn't look very Hellboyish. You know what I mean? Like he's not big and bulky like Ron Perlman or David Harbour, but that's just me.
You want him bulkier, like really kick your ass kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Because and another thing too, because I looked, and the guy who's playing Hellboy is Jack Kesey, I think. So I'm not too familiar with his work. I guess this time around they just decided we're just going to go with an unknown actor, and kind of take the pressure off of that, because with the last two Hellboy movies, like or the last two, I guess, adaptations of the Hellboy films, I mean, they got some pretty big name actors, so it could work. I mean, I would definitely go and see it regardless, but it's one of those things where I'm a bit apprehensive, but I'm hopeful at the same time. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, going back to what you were saying for like the 2019, like I like that sort of, or the 2004 even, like I like that sort of like universe building kind of thing. But it was a little distracting. I think this is much more going to be like Hellboy at its roots, and that stuff's good if like, you're going to come out with like 5 more films, but they didn't, and they're trying something new right now. And I think it's well overdue.
Yeah. And another thing, yeah. And like you said, I mean, it's important that they go back to their roots, but they don't kind of retell the whole origin story of Hellboy. And you remember that one scene where you saw like the soldiers running across the field, kind of alludes back to World War II, right? Because you remember Hellboy, he was summoned by the Nazis to bring about the end of the world, but then the Allies came and took him, and they raised him as an American kid. So
Right.
So I hope they don't go too much into his origins, just because we've already seen it played out anyway, right? So
yeah, fair point.
So I mean, if they just stick to the story itself, I think they can't go wrong. So let me ask you this: so just based on what you've seen so far, do you have any high hopes? Do you think this might be the beginning of a franchise reboot where they start cranking out more Hellboy movies, or are you a bit more cautious?
Well, I think that it's definitely. I mean, you saw those images; they're very extreme with those people possessed. So it's definitely a darker Hellboy. So we know that audience is definitely there, and I wish them well. I hope this is the start of a major franchise reboot for them. It's a great character, and it's really everyone loves like fighting Nazis and stuff. So let's see how it goes.
Well, plus they got a young actor too. So if they decide, maybe we can like produce a new movie every three to 4 years. I mean, the actor they got, he's in
less. Yeah.
I mean, so another thing that I was reading, and I don't know if you've heard about it. I heard somewhere that they were planning on doing like a Hellboy series. Is that something you've heard on your
Not
end?
on my radar, but
Okay.
it makes sense. TV is everywhere.
I was gonna say, if they do that, they should definitely do the BPRD as a series. Kind of,
Yeah,
kind of
I
like what they did with Batman, where you remember that series Gotham, where it was mainly focused on Jim Gordon and the GCPD.
right.
They should do a BPRD focusing on like the other characters, because that's the thing with the Hellboy movies, is because they were just trying to pile on too many characters like Abe and Liz and
Like the Agents of Marvel, Agents of Shield.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. So if you get the BPRD, you can like introduce all these characters, and maybe if you introduce Hellboy in there, that would be fine. But but the series would mainly focus on the other characters of the BPRD that you don't see in the Hellboy movies, and plus it would free up the movies to not have to worry about introducing these characters, right?
right. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I think that would be great.
Oh man, dude, we gotta do an episode where we fantasize about that. Like that would be so fucking awesome.
I mean, all the shows deserve to get made.
Yeah, but here's the thing: like you've got to have a subtle touch, because the Acolyte, was the latest series in the Star Wars universe, and yeah, that was no bueno. Like I watched one episode and I was like, I wish I didn't have eyes, man. And thankfully, it got canceled. Like, I mean, if you're gonna adapt something, you better stay true to the spirit. And I think with Hellboy, it's so easy to kind of go off the rails. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, they had some pretty big actors on the Acolyte, and I was watching the trailer or whatever, a couple episodes, and like I didn't see them at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw them on the poster, and then I said, "Well, all right, I'll check this out." They're in it, and then I didn't see them at all, basically.
You barely see Carrie Ann Moss, and she was like the selling point.
Isn't she a talent?
I know, it's like they spend all this time saying, "Here's Carrie Ann Moss. She's going to be in the next Star Wars series," and you barely see her. And you're like, okay, that's weird.
An outrage.
Yeah, exactly. Well, guys, go ahead and let us know down in the comments below. Are you excited for Hellboy: The Crooked Man? Do you have high hopes that this will be a knockout hit, or are you a bit cautious and pessimistic? And would you like to see a BPRD series streaming on Netflix or Hulu or wherever? And as always, thank you so much for watching, and be sure to catch our first episode of Myth, Magic, and Movies when it airs Halloween week. Take it easy.